Yo, 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 people. This is Lee Davey. I'm not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I'm someone that doesn't drink alcohol. I spend every waking moment of my life helping other people do the same. Like right now, it is Ask Me Anything. And we have two questions, one from Striver Maureen and one from Striver Susie. So let's get to Maureen's first. Maureen says, I would love you to go more in depth on the value aspect. I understand consciously why, when you get rid of the value, you would no longer have any cravings. However, subconsciously, there's been 25 years of programming done that told me otherwise. I really want to get to the bottom of this, as I know without it, I face a lifetime of triggers. I had often thought the value is gone, only to end up finding it again after my loss. I can only imagine I'm not the only one, and I've seen some posts that also allude to this. I don't want that to happen again, finding some value in brackets. So I'm hoping for even more insight. I know this is what Strive is based on, and we talk about it all the time, but some of us need even more. This may fall under the category of focusing on an area of our philosophy as opposed to a simple question. I hope that's okay. Let me know if you have any questions, blah, 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 blah. Okay, thank you for that question, Maureen. And yeah, let me just have a think and a little drink of my matcha mushroom tea. I'm finally getting an understanding how to make tea. Don't put so much water in. So, value. It is an incredibly important aspect of the philosophy at Strive. There are two. Look, what is Strive about? Strive is not about helping people to become alcohol free. Strive is about helping people to become alcohol free and then helping them build rockets and go to Mars. It's much bigger than the alcohol, right? We want people to live fulfilled lives and to create incredibly crazy goals and to smash them time and time again. So they, by the time they leave this earth, they're happy with their lot. You know, they are happy that they had fulfilled relationships and they had wonderful experiences. That is what Strive's all about. It's why we're a lifetime gig. It's why we're a family, and we're not just a group of people who just hang out together occasionally, right? And that is what we're all about. However, you're never going to build a rocket and take it to Mars if you can't crack the first nut. And that first nut is to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, what I call a striver. And the key to this is to become trigger free. And for those of you that doesn't know what a trigger is a craving, right? So let's say it's New Year's Eve, you decide you're never going to drink again. We've all been there before, right? And then New Year's Day, you go out with your mates and they're all doing the Yard of Ale competition and you're there with them and everybody's asking you to have a go at the Yard of Ale, but you said you're never going to drink again. And now suddenly, because your mates are asking you to do it, you start to feel a craving, a trigger to get involved. And then you drink, right? I'm going to cough a lot today because I've got a cough, unfortunately, folks, right? So bear with me. That's a trigger, right? A trigger. And we can have triggers for a variety of different reasons. And if we've been drinking alcohol for decades, like Maureen has, like I had, then you're going to have a massive number of these different triggers. Some of them are going to be environmentally triggering. Some of them are going to be emotionally triggering. And some of them are just going to be just plain old habits, right? And at Strive, we really need you to be someone who doesn't get triggered. Because if you're triggered and you're not drinking alcohol, but you're triggered all the time, you're going to feel a sense of lack, a sense of loss, a sense of wanting something you cannot have. And I don't know about you, but whenever I have those feelings, I don't feel good, okay? I feel pretty lousy. And that's not in line with building rockets and going to Mars. That's not in line with living a fulfilled life. That's not in line with being inspired and being inspirational. So if you feel really miserable, people, that you stop drinking, but you're really, really miserable, then you need to question what the hell is going on, right? because we're not in the business here at Strive of making people miserable. So that's why we have to work on these triggers. And the way that we work on these triggers is psychologically. You know, we're about to implement a little bit more biological work, particularly around nutrition and how nutrition and supplements can help around triggers. But invariably, what we're talking about here is a psychological issue, an issue that we can control. Although I can understand how many people don't think they can. And the first way that we help this is by slowly introducing the concept of hierarchies, basically ideologies and belief systems that exist that exert dominance from one group over another. So in our case, we're in the non-dominant group because we're people who don't drink or people who don't want to drink, and the dominant group are the people who drink. that is a hierarchy because we feel we're made to feel by the people, and not just the people, mainly the system, the belief system, that what we're doing is wrong, that we're somehow inferior, that we're incapable because we can't moderate, we can't drink normally in brackets, and a variety of things. So we teach people to understand that hierarchy exists, and we give it a name, right? And the name is alcoholism. It's an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system. It's violent because it kills 3.3 million people a year, which is more than war, murder, and terrorism combined. It is dominant because if you look around you, more people drink than don't drink. And it's invisible, yet despite those stats, it is the only drug on the planet that you're actively encouraged to take and ostracized if you don't. So we, through our programs and experiences at Strive, help people to understand that alcoholism is visible, violent, and dominant belief system. And that is a massive, massive part of the work that helps you to not be triggered anymore. And a complementary philosophy that we use to help supplement that is our concept that alcohol offers you zero value if you look at it through the long-term lens, right? So there are two ways that we can have value in our lives. We can have short-term value, what we often refer to as instant gratification. And we can also have long-term value, like long-term benefits. So a good example, I guess, is running. I don't like running. Like, you know, the thought of going out running after I've done this is not something that's going to inspire me. And I'm not like, yeah, I'm going to go run, because it's not a behavior that is habit formed for me. And I know that if I do run, I'm going to get some long-term value, right? I'm going to be able to get over that hump. It's not going to hurt as much. I'm going to be fitter, stronger, all that kind of stuff. I know that conceptually long-term, but I'm never looking through that long-term lens when it comes to working out, when it comes to running. I'm always looking at the short-term lens, which is not an instant gratification one. It is pain and sorrow and suffering. You know, it is going to cause me more pain to exercise now than you know, the pain that it's going to cause me. I just don't want to get involved in it. It's like it's too much for me for what to want to go out and do that. You know, it is far more painful than it is to. Am I talking about it? I lost my train of thought. It is too painful for me to go out and run short term. I need to include more joy about running long term. I need to look at the long term value of jogging through a different lens, through a different perspective. And it's a similar thing with alcohol. So we can say that we can look at alcohol and say that it provides us with short term value, or we can look at through that perspective, or we can change our perspective and look at it through long-term value. And what we try to teach people at Strive is to consistently look at it through long-term value, okay? The long-term value lens. Does alcohol provide me, if I drink it right now, is it going to provide me with any long-term value? And we believe at Strive that alcohol provides you with zero long-term value. And because we take a different perspective and we create a new set of beliefs around that, which has the rule, alcohol has no long-term value, we therefore don't have any desire or any craving to take it in the short term, okay? Now, I want to start by saying that me, Lee Davey, I've been someone who doesn't drink alcohol. I've been a striver for over 10 years now. And I can tell you, hand on heart, that there is absolutely zero value in drinking alcohol. I can also tell you that I drank alcohol for the same amount of time as Maureen, around 25 years. And during that time, I had a belief system, a very strong belief that alcohol provided me with incredible value. Okay. So I am an example that you can look at a problem, in this case, alcohol use and the belief systems around it, from two different perspectives. And by looking at them in two different perspectives, you can completely change the way you feel about value, in this case with alcohol, and then you can get rid of your addiction. And if you think about other long-term strivers like Nikki, Laurie, are the two that spring to mind who've been with us the longest. And Michelle, who just recently went 1,000 days without drinking, which is like 2.7 years. And you ask them if they felt that alcohol had any value, they would tell you that alcohol has zero value. And again, like me, they would have said when they were drinking that it had incredible value. So that's the starting point, Maureen. The starting point is that the journey that you're on at the moment to become a striver, to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol and never desires to drink, because that to me is the end goal. When you get there, you will look back and you will not be able to find any value in alcohol. Everybody who stops drinking through the Strive method, they don't see any value. It's not there. So for me, it's not a question of does this work or not. It's a question of how do we make this work for me? What do we have to do? And I think what happens at Strive is a lot of people get it through their own volition, So I read a book by Alan Carr, The Easy Way to Control Alcohol. And Alan Carr told me in his pages that alcohol provided no value. But I was in the midst of a perfect storm. My marriage was falling apart. I really didn't like drinking alcohol a lot. I did sense there was incredible value in it. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have been drinking, mainly in the social aspect of it. I really didn't like it. Like my hangovers were horrific, blacking out, I was behaving in ways I didn't want to behave in. So I really, really needed to believe Alan Carr that it was true. I needed to believe it because I wanted to save my marriage and I wanted to change who I was as a person. But I think something else happened that was more important. And that was 8 years previous to me stopping drinking. I stopped smoking, reading Alan Carr's smoking book. So I had faith. I had faith in Alan Carr's method. And faith, when it comes to changing your belief system, is massively important. When I have given and handed people in the past, the Alan Carr Easy Way to Stop Smoking book, the people that I handed it to who had faith in me and my belief that this would work for them, applied that faith to their belief system and never craved another cigarette. Those people who had no faith or little faith that it would work for them for a variety of different reasons, didn't work for them. Okay. So I know that when you did the intensive, Maureen, you came to a roadblock and you stopped working the program. I don't know if you restarted again because I haven't gone back and checked since we had interaction via WhatsApp. But I know one of the reasons that you stopped was a clash of beliefs here around this concept of value, and that you couldn't quite wrap your head around it. So one question that I'd like you to ask yourself and to meditate on is, knowing that you're a red personality type. Red personality types don't like people telling them what to do. And red personality types don't like telling people what to think or how to think. It almost becomes like disrespectful. It's almost like really annoying. I'm red, so that I know, and I've seen this in other reds on Strive. I'm not saying this is you. I'm asking you to take a look at it and to contemplate the possibility that when you get to a point and I say there's no value in alcohol, and you really believe there is, that there is a lack of faith in me and my teaching in this one area. I know you have tremendous faith in me as a teacher and a guide and a leader overall, holistically. But do you have faith in me and this belief that alcohol holds no value? If you look at it through a long-term lens, do you have that faith? I think it's not there. I think it's wavering, or it's gone, or it's not there in this point. And without it, it's going to be really difficult to shift belief systems. So that's the first thing that I really want you to think about. Okay. When it comes to the concept of value, I want us to think about the way that we conceptually think about things and how the body reacts to those things that eventually lead to actions. So for example, I used to drink alcohol because I thought it improved my social life, right? So I used to go to play football on a Sunday, and then afterwards we would all go for a beer, and I really liked being with the lads, drinking beer, watching football, playing pool, playing cards. I really liked that. And I thought if I stopped drinking, that not that I would not enjoy that as much, I wouldn't be able to go out with them. Like, it just would seem odd. I don't even remember being afraid of them ridiculing me. It was more a case of, I won't be able to play football and I won't be able to go out with them. And I didn't really give it too much thought. It was just, it's never going to happen. It was, when you say to someone who comes to Strive, do you want to stop drinking forever? Very often it's a question that you just do not want to answer. Like, it's just, you don't want to go there. So I never wanted to go there. I never wanted to even consider. I go on further than that. My subconscious programming was programmed that I could never believe that I could not drink alcohol ever again. It was like, if you tell me now to believe in God, my programming kicks in and says, I will never believe in God. Not unless God visits me in the night and shows me proof and evidence that he exists. I'll never believe in God. I never believed that I could stop drinking alcohol permanently, like, ever. So when it came to the value that I had in, like, my social experiences, it was never going to be challenged. But let's think about this Sunday afternoon, one Sunday afternoon in the pub, like after football, and work our way backwards. We have a drink. That is an action. So I'm in a pub, I'm drinking alcohol. That is an action. That action came from a feeling or an emotion. And that feeling or emotion would be happiness, excitement, anticipation, that feeling that you get when you're going out or you're about to go out. That Friday night feeling, that Sunday all day feeling, that Saturday night feeling. You've all had it, and some of you still get it, and some of you miss it, right? That feeling that you get, that is an emotion or a feeling. And that emotion and the feeling emanates from a thought. The thought is, I'm going to go out on Sunday. And very often that thought starts building up way before Sunday arrives. So you'll get really excited on a Saturday night, particularly if you haven't gone out on a Saturday night. You'll get really excited on a Saturday night about playing football on Sunday and then going to the pub. You might get really excited about it come Friday. But if you work for a living, like Monday to Friday, then generally that feeling is hijacked by the even better feeling of the anticipation of leaving work. So a lot of our value is tied up in anticipatory thoughts, okay, that lead to feelings. It's perceived value, right? not actual value, okay, which is really important. So you've got action, drinking alcohol, you've got emotion, feeling, happiness, anticipation, excitement. You've got the thought, or I'm going to drink, which is the thought. But then below that, you've got a belief system, which drives that thought, okay? So my belief system would have been, I need to drink alcohol to enjoy my social experience. Another belief that would have fueled the thought would have been part of my programming, you know. And remember that 95% of our actions comes from our subconscious, which is programming that we're not even mindful it's happening. Like I'm twisting the pen in my fingers right now. Until I just brought that to my conscious awareness, that was happening subconsciously. I didn't even know I was doing it. I'm not thinking about the words that are coming out my mouth right now as I'm talking to you, Maureen. They're not coming from conscious thought. They're coming from subconscious thought. 95% of what we do, we're pretty much robots due to programming. If you think about, if you go to Star Wars World in Disneyland, you can actually buy an Android for $50 or $100, and you build it from scratch. Now, I don't know how far you can go with building this thing. Very likely you can stick a battery in it and it'll run around, right? You can have a little R2-D2 that will run around with a remote control. But if technology was more advanced and we could teach it to actually mimic human behavior, like people are doing with artificial intelligence right now, one of the first things that we'd have to do is we would have to set it up with a predetermined set of programs. We'd have to be its God. We'd have to tell it what to do. And not only would we have to tell it what to do, we would have to tell it what to do scenario based, bearing in mind morality. It's a little bit like Tesla's and other companies' self-driving cars. So we know that sometime in the future, all of our automatic and manual cars will be replaced by self-driving cars. It's going to happen, right? And somebody who's creating that self-driving car needs the car to understand that when it's heading for a sidewalk and it could kill a group of school children or an 80-year-old man in a walking stick, it has to kill the 80-year-old man in a walking stick. There needs to be answers to moral questions drilled into this artificial intelligence. And I'm using that as an example about how we're created as human beings. You know, we cannot stop and think about everything all the time. Otherwise, we would go insane. We'd be in an insane asylum. It would be too much for our brain to handle. So we have a lot of rules, and these rules are our beliefs. So my belief is I have to drink alcohol when I go out for a social situation, and it goes even more laser-like focus when it becomes football. I have to drink alcohol when I play football with the boys on Sunday. It's a very specific rule, and it's a belief that is laden with emotion, which makes the belief even more powerful, that says, and when I do, I'm really going to have a lot of fun, and I'm really, really going to love it and enjoy this, right? And this is why alcoholism and its invisible, violent, dominant belief system works so well, is the emotions and the thoughts that are attached to this belief are not just because of what's happened in actuality, they're also influenced by the belief system. So they're also influenced by knowing that status exists. And for me to not drink with my friends, I'm going to fall down the pecking order of hierarchy. Advertising in media, on television, how cool people are. You know, it all fits together in organizing and creating this belief system, right? So I have this belief system that says I have to go and drink alcohol when I play football with the boys. That belief system then drives the thought, oh, it's Sunday, I'm going to go play football, and then I'm going to go to pub and I'm going to have a pint, which then creates an emotional feeling. It's like, oh, wow, I'm really excited that this is happening. I can't wait to have a drink, which then creates an action of having a drink, right? And if you break that cycle, you get a different emotion. So let's say I'm on call, which I used to be on the railway, and I'm on call on Sunday. Now I can't drink when I go to football. Well, now because I can't, my belief system says that I'm going to get so much enjoyment out of this. Now that I can't have that, like because I'm working, my belief system changes slightly, and it results in the emotion and the feeling of sadness, of missing out, of being like depressed and even anxious that I can't drink. Okay. So it's really important to see that it's the belief and our beliefs that drive the behavior, not the emotion and the thoughts, but the belief, right? That is almost the root cause that we're getting at here. And and very often figuring out what belief is driving which trigger is almost like being Sherlock Holmes. So I'll give you an example, sticking with the one that we got. If I have a belief that when Sunday comes and I play football, that I need to drink alcohol to socialize with my friends and have a good time, that's my belief. I think you'll agree that we can stop there, right? That's my belief, and we don't have to go any deeper. And a lot of people would agree with that and say, yeah, you don't have to go any deeper. You've nailed it, Lee. You actually believe that in order to enjoy yourself, that is true. But you can go one step lower than that, and you can actually say, I have a belief that I, Lee Davey, cannot function optimally as a human being in front of other people if I don't have a drink. Like, I just cannot function around these people. I'm not going to be at my best. And because I'm not going to be at my best when I'm around these people, because I will be worrying about what they say, I'll be worrying about what they're thinking about me, I'll be more consciously aware about my behaviors and everybody else's behaviors and their perceptions of me. I then start to believe, I have another belief that's linked to something else in my mind, that I'm different to everybody else, and that there's a belief system in there that says being different to everybody else is wrong, right? So, and that belief comes all the way back to when I was a kid. So we got like a belief system from when we was a kid, which we're now using when we're 45, that enables us to drink and creates real heartache and pain when we don't, you know? So I'm going to get a little personal here to use, to make it so I'm going to personalize it to you, Maureen, so you can understand it more clearly with yourself. So you stopped drinking for a very, very long time. And then you had a miscarriage and went through an absolutely horrific time and experience. And then you started drinking again, right? So if we go through the same order there, the action is drinking alcohol. The emotion and feeling, well, you know the emotion and feeling, so you can add to this, but I imagine it will be things like despair, sadness, grief, desperation, overwhelming angst, anger, lots of emotions and feelings that we would, I don't like to do this, but we would bracket them as negative, okay? And they lead to, if we don't turn the volume down on them, they lead to pain and suffering. And those emotions and feelings are driven by the thoughts about what happened with the miscarriage, the thoughts of, I mean, you experienced it, so you've got all the thoughts of the experience of the actual event, you've got all the thoughts that go through your head as well, around, you know, the whole plethora of it. I've never lost a child. I've been through the pain of losing a sister in a similar fashion, which is nowhere near the same. I've been through a divorce, which is not the same. But I have experienced the pain, the grief, the angst, the anger, the frustration, the helplessness that come from the thoughts around extreme loss. Okay. And it ain't good, and it ain't healthy. But that then tracks back to a belief, right? And in your case, it could be that the belief is, I cannot handle these really strong emotions that are tied to this traumatic loss without drinking alcohol. Okay. That could be the belief. I believe that I can handle that traumatic loss without drinking alcohol, right? Now, I don't know if that's true because it hasn't happened, but I think it's really important to draw attention to the fact that I believe that I can handle it. I believe I can handle it through my experiences of life. I think my experiences of life, plus my mentors in life, have led to me to create a belief that says that tomorrow, if I lose someone really close to me, I will not drink alcohol, right? That if I lose someone close to me, I believe that I have within me the capability as a human being to deal with those emotions, to deal with grief, to deal with mourning, to deal with loss. I believe that I can handle that without drinking alcohol, right? Where does that belief come from? I believe that I have a massive support system around me that could help me. I believe that through traumatic loss comes some good. I believe that I am capable of experiencing really tragic losses and then moving on and getting on with life. I believe in the capacity and the power of the human body and mind to overcome the most incredible, intense situations ever. I believe that I will never lightly experience some of the most traumatic things that other people in life could ever experience. And I believe that people who have experienced trauma that I will never experience will overcome it and move on and get on with their lives, right? Without drinking alcohol. Now, I think this is a super, super important point, because if we want to see that alcohol has no value long term, this is what we need to work on: our beliefs. Okay. We don't need to work on our actions of not drinking alcohol. We don't need to work on our emotions. Now let's scratch that, rewind the record. Let me start again. The good thing about Strive and a holistic approach and the diverse group of people and experiences we have here, we are able to attack our actions and try and develop tools and techniques not to drink. We do have tools and techniques and a support system to help us manage our emotions and our feelings. And we do have tools and techniques to learn and understand and be aware of our thoughts. What we need to get better at and more structured and more analytical at is working through how to change belief systems. You know, I think that is something moving forward. 1000 Days Sober, the new program, we'll probably spend a whole module, a whole month just working on belief systems. I think that's really important. If we can help you, Maureen, understand that you're basically schizophrenic. We all are, right? Maureen as a self, it's more complicated than that. you have different character archetypes. Something I was talking to Susie about the other day. You will have victim Maureen, judge Maureen, comedian Maureen, happy Maureen, evil Maureen. Okay. And each of these different characters have different belief systems. And it's the clashes between your characters and the character belief systems that are actually causing the thoughts that lead to the emotions that lead to the actions. Okay. One way of understanding this, because it's so complicated to kind of like figure it all out, one way to do it is by taking the stance of an observer in your own mind. So one way of doing this, I was saying to Susie, is to write about it as an observer. So let's say you have a trigger whereby say I argue with Liza. Let me give you an example. So Liza tells me that I haven't dried Zia's hair properly for the 15th day on the trot after she's come out of the bath. Child Lee comes up, you know, and starts saying, well, you do it then. Like, there's nothing wrong with her hair. It's perfectly okay, right? And we end up in a fight, and I go and drink because I'm just so angry at her, and I want her to see that I'm suffering, right? How I could write that trigger out in Strive is to write and say, last night, good dad Lee got Zia out of the bath, and he dried her, and he knew that his wife Liza has a particular issue around how dry her hair is going to bed. So good time dad really dried her hair as much as he could until it was bone dry. Then good time dad, or good dad Lee, put her pajamas on. Liza comes upstairs, says to good dad Lee, her hair's still wet. Childish Lee turns around and says to Liza, there's nothing wrong with her hair. It's fine. Liza says, no, it's not. It's damp. She'll get a cold if it's damp. Childish Lee then says to Liza, well, go and dry it yourself then, because obviously I don't know how to dry her hair. Okay? Now, sorry. Victim Lee says, well, now you go and, not Childish Lee, Victim Lee says, you go and dry her hair then, because I don't know how to dry her hair. Like the victim Lee, I'm not good enough. And then there's the judge Lee, which is judging her as like trying to control me and my behaviors, right? And if you write in that way and you do it a lot of the times, you can start to see, well, hang on a minute. I'm not thinking these thoughts. They're coming from these belief systems that I can really kind of identify to each character archetype. You can actually write it down, and you can have your own book of all your different archetypes. And each time you get into a trigger situation, if you can identify who the archetypes are, and in the new 1000 Days Sober, we're going to have a bigger trigger toolkit, and we can incorporate character archetypes. You'll be able to say to yourself, okay, that's not me. That is victim Maureen. How can we help change victim Maureen's belief? How can we look at this belief from a different perspective? Like how true is it that I cannot handle extremely painful and sufferable thoughts without drinking alcohol? If I look through it from a different perspective, I can say, well, I can handle them because when I was a child, I also had really harrowing, terrible thoughts and challenges that I managed without drinking alcohol. And on any given day, let's pick it's Thursday, I get up in the morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. I start having terrible thoughts about what happened, but I don't drink at 7 o'clock in the morning because we don't drink at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we kind of deal with the emotion. We deal with the emotion. A day gets on, we deal with the emotion. Day goes on, we deal with the emotion. And then the time comes where it's socially acceptable to drink alcohol. And then we drink alcohol because we can't no longer deal with the emotion. So this is where it's a combination of powerful feel-good thinking, but also changing our perception, changing our viewpoint of our belief system, looking at it from a different place. Is we can start to say, no. I can handle these moments without drinking, and start to find evidence that you can handle it, and change your belief system that you can handle it. Now, if you can change your belief system into a belief system that says, when I have traumatic thoughts about past events, I, Maureen, am more than capable of sitting in that suffering and pain and feeling those at full range of emotions without drinking alcohol. I can do that, and I know I can because I've experienced it and I've done it, and I can do it. And you keep writing that out in that kind of observer kind of like mentality, and creating a new. So in this instance, it would be victim, your victim character type, and changing and taking away the power from that victim character type and building up the power of the hero character type within you. Then the net result of that is there is no value in drinking alcohol in relation to dealing with the loss of your child, because you no longer believe that you're incapable as a human being of handling distress without drinking alcohol. You believe differently. You believe that you can handle it. This is why the people who are currently strivers, people like myself, people like Nikki, people like Laurie, the reason we don't have no value in alcohol is that we put so much time in, right? We put so much time in the bank that we know within ourselves what we're capable of doing now, because we've experienced so many things without drinking, right? The difficulty becomes when you have massive traumatic events that you're never going to see coming, like death in the family, divorce, typically death and divorce, loss of a job, I imagine, like could be another massive one as well. Like you don't see them coming, you don't know they're coming. So your belief system is, I have never experienced this before, so I cannot deal with it. Our challenge then is to find evidence that we can. To find evidence that we can and start to learn and to have faith in ourselves that we can handle anything that life throws at us without drinking alcohol, because we are super duper powerful human beings. We know people in the world who go through similar things and don't drink. And if they can do it, then so can we, right? So can we. How is it possible that somebody who's the same height, same color eyes, same color hair, same physiology can go for the same thing and not turn to alcohol, right? Or to drugs or something else? There will be people in existence in the world who are like that. It's because the belief systems are different, okay? It's because the belief systems are different. So this is why triggers is really important. Every time we're triggered to drink, we really should be answering those 13 questions. There's no reason why we shouldn't be answering them. We should answer those 13 questions and then allow people like myself and our peers at Strive to start asking more questions around this area, you know, like asking things like I just asked, like what character type is this coming from? Where are you thinking about your belief systems, et cetera, et cetera. But also at the same time, I have a responsibility to incorporate more training on this. But at the moment, Maureen, you're racking up the days, you're doing the work. Have faith. Faith. I can't say faith. Have faith in me. Have faith in what I'm talking about. Have faith in this philosophy. And use that faith as a fire that's going to light this new set of belief systems, right? If you can work at the belief system level here at Strive, that's your work now, from now on, is to work at the belief systems level. Start, Maureen, by writing an entire list of all the beliefs that you have. All the beliefs that you have. Just go to help and guidance and fucking write them all out. All of the beliefs you have. Yeah? All the beliefs you have. Negative, positive, it'll take you fucking ages. Get them all down. And then once we've got them all down, we can start saying, right, whose belief does that belong? Who is that belief belong to? Is it victim Maureen? Is it hero Maureen? Is it judge Maureen? Is it childish Maureen? So we can start to look at these beliefs. And then we can start to say, well, do we actually believe they're true? Do we? And then we start crossing them off, and we can get to, we do work on the intensive, don't we, about the core values. What are our core values? So we go from 100 core values to 3. We could do the same with our beliefs. What are our core beliefs? Core limiting beliefs. What are our core limiting beliefs? And then we can work on those core limiting beliefs. We can use cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. You can work with John on those type of things. Lisa and Vinny can look at those beliefs from a trauma element, from a spiritual element, from a grief, a mourning element, you know. So I hope that helps. To summarize, value is all about looking through a long-term lens. It's all about changing your belief system to one that says that alcohol offers you intense value long-term, to one that says that alcohol offers you zero value long-term. And that in the immediacy, the short-term instant gratification value that you believe you have, you don't need it. It's not as powerful and as lovely and as wonderful as you think it is. And posting on triggers will get you to see that a lot of these things are bullshit. For example, we're back to mine in a football, you know, it's clear as mustard when you write it all out and you write as an observer that alcohol does nothing but diminish my ability to connect and have a good time when I'm with my friends in the pub on a Sunday. That is not the value. That's a delusion. The value is the camaraderie and being with my mates and being part of a tribe and not feeling like I'm alone, which goes connected to that belief system of childish Lee that says nobody loves you, nobody likes you, everybody thinks you're different, and being different is bad. Okay? It's like a little remnant of childlike me, because there's a hero Lee that says being different is good. I said to my daughter yesterday, this morning, she asked me to tell her a story around breakfast time. And I said, pick a word. She said, pumpkin. Okay, so I told her a story about how this carrot moved from carrot land to pumpkin land. And he got really sad because he was the only carrot. And then Halloween came and all the pumpkins were getting really excited because the pumpkins were going to go to Halloween and be on the doorsteps and all the kids would love them. And then the carrot couldn't go out because he's a carrot. He's not a pumpkin. So now he's feeling even worse. And then some of the pumpkins said to him, well, we could dress you up like a pumpkin. But the carrot was like, no, but I want to be a carrot. And then eventually someone says to him, fuck it, come out and just be a carrot. So he went out and he was a carrot. And all the kids were going, wow, look at this fabulous carrot who's amongst all these pumpkins. That's different. How brave and courageous of this carrot. And I use it as an example to show Zia that if you're in a situation where you think you're different, it's a good thing. Tell a 3-year-old that repeatedly, and when she's 45 struggling with alcohol, I guarantee you she's not going to have a belief system that tells her that being different is a bad thing. She's going to have a belief system that says that being different is a good thing. Liza, born and bred in LA, she has a belief system that being different is a good thing. She doesn't even recognize that being Korean is different. Where I grew up in Ogmore Vale, being hard Chinese is different equals bad. Liza is different equals good. It's all a belief system. It's all a programming thing. And if we've been programmed to believe that these beliefs are true, we can be programmed to believe that they're false. And we can reprogram and create newer ones, because if we can adopt them when we're young subconsciously, we can consciously adopt them and create them when we're in our 40s, right? So that's really important. Writing about this stuff all the time, focusing on it non-stop, like just thinking about these things all the time is really important. Writing about the triggers, talking about these triggers, working on the archetypes, figuring out who your personality character types are within you, who are making all these decisions, writing this big list of beliefs, getting them down to like a few core limiting beliefs, highlighting what character type they are belong to, and doing all this by learning to write from an observer status whenever these troubling techniques come up. And also, alongside that, is write the list of all the areas you think alcohol has value. And we can see if we can marry up the values to the limiting beliefs. And then we know exactly where to work on. So I hope that was beneficial for you, Maureen, okay? Susie, I'm not going to get to your question today, but what I'm going to do is create a separate video, and I will deliver that to you in a different format, okay? Probably post it on YouTube or something. So I hope that was of benefit, Maureen. It was. I'm sure that if you feel it was all over the place, because I just kind of went for it off the top of my head. If you wanted to put it down in more structure, we could do that. Sure, if you got any questions, fire them at me. And I hope it was helpful. And if anybody else has any questions in future that you want me to go through, let me know, and I'll get them done. Thank you very much for listening.